A drone strike killed 3 American service members last night and over 30 more wounded in northeast Jordan. And there have been hundreds of rocket strikes and drone strike attempts in the last few months, so I guess this was an inevitability. But it still kind of came as a surprise. It's not a base that I think anyone was expecting for this to happen at. And I understand the impulse to immediately think, like, what's the president going to do? What are we going to do? What's the response going to be? But I am thinking about what it would have been like to be on the ground there. Because I was a medic in Afghanistan. That's my expertise. And to be quite frank, I don't know shit about anything else. I don't know what the president's going to do. I don't even know what the right answer is. But what I do know is how horrific that must have been on the ground. Because that's a mass casualty situation. When I was in Afghanistan, during the worst of the fighting, and we were in some serious fighting, we had one day like 10 people got wounded. And that was overwhelming to our medical staff. I cannot imagine trying to keep 30 wounded alive. You're just some guy. You're some kid who's been fucking taught by a bunch of angry alcoholics how to use a bag full of Band-Aids to prolong suffering until you get to actual medical support, ergo a surgeon. And yet we're good at it. The stats in the war, if you got to a medic and lived long enough with the medic to get to a surgeon, you had like a 98% chance of survival during some of the height of the fighting. But I gotta tell you, as someone who's done a few Maz-Cows, we were barely holding on. You just got a bag full of like saline and Band-Aids, and you're just supposed to keep people alive through bombs and bullets and shrapnel? Do you have any idea how much bodies want to die? The entirety of existence tends towards entropy, and we're supposed to stand in the way of that? And what's crazy is most of emergency medicine comes down to squeeze that real hard. Nearly every life-saving intervention is squeeze that thing. Either a tourniquet or a really tight bandage, or if you're literally sewing something back together, you're just squeezing the bits back. And the other thing, cut it and shove a tube in it. So you either squeeze the thing or you cut it and shove a tube in it. And those are like more or less the only interventions you have against death. I can't imagine how horrifying it was to be in the dark in a place they were not expecting to be attacked, and to have maybe 4, 5 medics on the ground dealing with 30 some odd casualties. You know, thank God they were, because they probably kept that number of dead from being even higher. Also, all the combat lifesavers, because we train everybody in the military how to squeeze things real hard. We used to teach them, how to cut things and shove tubes in it, but they got too distracted by the tube pushing, and they didn't do the squeeze first, and then people would show up to caches with like 2 bilateral 18 gauge IVs, and yet missing tourniquets on the legs that were blown off. So we had to change the training to be, no, squeeze first, tubes later. The medics will worry about the tubes. If you're really confused by what I'm talking about, IVs are like little tubes that go in your arm. It's like the tube is around the needle, and then you push it off, and then you shove tubes down people's throats when they don't breathe so good. Worst case scenario, if their face is removed, you cut right here and you put a tube in there. Sometimes, I got taught to do this, if their chest is all screwed up, you put a tube in there to get the air out, and if it's super screwed up, you cut over here and you shove one of those airway tubes in there. There's a lot of tubes in medicine. There's gastric tubes, there's tubes that go in your urethra. I've distracted myself away from the unpleasant thoughts. Look at that. Well, I was trained to do that too. In all this rambling, I hope I got across, something. I feel for those people that I don't know, that I assume were there, trying to make sense of all that carnage last night. I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't know what the escalation after this point will be. But I'm glad for those people that are doing the job that I can no longer do. Oh, and because this is the internet, I'm also sad that service members died, and I guess I have to say that and not just let it be an unspoken thing. But as a medic, I do tend to try to ignore death whenever I'm not arguing directly with him. I'm actually sad when most people die. In fact, I just don't feel the need to vocalize it each time. Not everyone. Some people I'm glad are no longer causing harm, but most of the time, I'm just like, I have a human response to things. But again, the internet. So just Just felt like reminding you guys of basic human decency. But I did do it at the end, so the people who didn't bother getting this far are definitely leaving comments with none.